David.
He's falling in a beautiful swirling pattern.
David.
What is up, everyone? I'm your host, David Wells, and this is the David Wells Experiment. So I thought about staying home today from work and just doing more podcast episodes, but then I remembered that I have bills to pay, so I had to go and work. That didn't actually happen, but, thinking about staying home and just doing the podcast. Yeah, I obviously did go to work, which is why I feel so tired. Today was a better day than I anticipated, and I spent it trying to think about what I would talk about as the day went on, because my plan was pretty much get home and do the podcast. So, it's funny, I'm trying to figure out the next step in my life, and I think photography has something to do with it. And yeah, I just need to learn how to use this flash I bought. It's like $300, so gotta make good on that investment. Oh yeah, I think I said this in the other podcast, but the other day I went to Freddy's and tried their new pretzel barbecue bacon something burger. It was pretty good. It has some whiskey infused barbecue sauce or something like that. Yeah. I was thinking all day of like, what could I talk about? And I've got so many disconnected subjects, so this one might be random. One of the things that I think about is like, what do I want to do? I'm really going to have to put the AI filter because that dog is barking. Hopefully you can't hear it and you're like, what's he talking about? Then I know that the filter worked. Man, I ate like an hour ago, but I'm like thinking, oh, I need to go get something else to eat again. Oh, I didn't feel so tired today, and I don't know why that is. I kind of got tired around 6, but it's nothing too crazy. So, what else is going on? Yeah, one of the things I think about what I want to do is like make video games. I think I've mentioned that before. And to do that, I would need a more powerful computer to run some of the sort of heavy hitter like game engines like Unity and Unreal Engine. So that's something to look forward to when I make more money. And what else? Oh, another thing. I don't know what it is, but like the last couple of weeks I was feeling like not as hungry as I normally do. Like in that time, I would like not finish like hardly any of my lunch. But recently I felt like I can eat more. So I guess I sort of lost my appetite for a bit. That might have been one of the things that when I went to go donate plasma. For some reason, like a week or two ago, I donated plasma, tried to do a follow-up donation on Saturday, and they said there was something up with my the plasma, that it had like not enough protein and iron. And the iron is funny because usually they screen for like having too much. So usually I try to avoid having too much iron, but they said it was like in the negative. So that was interesting to hear. I will be attempting to donate on Thursday. And hopefully I'll find out what all of that was about. Yeah. I went to Dollar General, bought some iron tablets. Hopefully that does something. And I'm kind of worn out from the day, but I know that I need to do this because I need to keep momentum going. I have to do a podcast even if I don't feel like it, or if I feel tired, even if I don't have anything to say, really. But I had a lot of things to say, and I don't know where all of it went. But anyway, yeah. So one thing I thought of doing movie-wise was I wrote an audio drama, like a script for an audio drama, like a modern reimagining of The Telltale Heart. And I thought about maybe I could turn that into a feature script. And that might be interesting. It would be different though, because I realized I have to recontextualize. One of the things that I did when I was writing a script for an audio drama is I'm like, okay, how do you let people know what's going on? And I was trying to figure out, do I want a narrator? And how do I want to do it? I didn't want it to be like an audio book. And there's so many things. I mean, I've heard of audio dramas before, but I was trying to figure out how to do it effectively. Like, one thing I don't like is in audiobooks when there's like a narrative piece of fiction and the narrator does all of the characters' voices. I say that, and yet at the same time, like, one of my favorite things of reading was when my dad would read books and he would, of course, he'd do voices, but that's because he's him, and in other contexts, I don't like it. But one of the stories I remember he used to read was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And it's funny, I remember when the movie Finding Nemo came out, I'm like, interesting choice of name, because that was one of the core characters in that story. It's interesting, Nemo in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea might be one of the earliest examples of, say, an anti-hero. Because on the one hand, he puts himself at odds with humanity, but at the same humanity, maybe he's at odds with maybe not humanity, maybe he's at odds with the governments of the world, and he's trying to change things. So maybe he's more of an anti-establishment character. And there's really no definitive end for him. Spoiler alert for a book that's been out for like 200 years. I just remember the way the story starts is he gets the scientist guy and some of his friend captive, but by the end, like, they somehow get free because of some storm. And I remember people thinking, I remember the main character, the narrator, saying that he hoped that he survived. Like, it was ambiguous, but he'd grown to respect him and appreciate what he was going for. I remember there was also a made-for-TV, like, 2-part adaptation that had Michael Caine as Nemo. I could swear it was Michael Caine who played him. And the way that ended was it had a wildly different ending from the book, because I think in that one the ship gets attacked, and the ship gets attacked by like some regular government, and this one government official steps on and is like, this mechanical wonder will be mine. And then Nemo, he blows the ship up, the Nautilus. That's what it's called. Another version that I don't remember too well, but then again, I didn't remember the Michael Caine one very good. Is of course the Disney version. And that one ended with the ship sinking, and one of the things that had this one moment in it where like Nemo stumbles to his room and he reclines and it's the end, but he opens the windows of his so he can see the sea as he's like dying. And I'm like, that's pretty poignant. I'm trying to think of any other adaptation. I feel like it's one of those things that's happened. Like, I honestly don't know if anyone's revisited it, like, recently. What other movie projects? Like, I have a bunch of ideas. One movie I wanted to do is something that addresses like how the media like comments on, well, not the specifically news media, like how they cover violent incidents, and you have to wonder if do they have a hand in creating the next monster or something? Because I've heard that studies show that perpetrators, people who create these heinous violent crimes, that they're basing it off of other things, like people who have done this sort of thing before, and they see it as a way to get notoriety and recognition. Even if they wind up dying themselves, they're like, oh, I know that I'm going to be talked about. So I've had some ideas for movies like that. Also, another idea I've had for a movie is a movie about the backrooms, but do it in a way where you don't really see the backrooms until like the very end of the movie, and it's only just suggested. Like, it's this thing that gets built up all throughout the movie, and you more sort of see the effect of what's happened to people who have visited there. And if I do that one, I'm going to have to like get on it soon, because that guy King Pixels, who took the idea of liminal spaces in the back rooms and made it into a thing on YouTube, he's apparently making a backrooms movie with A24. But I think it'll be more in line with what he's made on YouTube, although it won't be in a found footage style. What else do I want to do? I know for years, and I mean years, I have tried to learn how to do CGI. And it's one of those things where I always come back to it, and it's like, I know I need to do this because there's some stories that I want to tell that would require it. And it kind of seems like we're past the days in filmmaking where you can just make some indie film about some guy who's just trying to find himself, and you can have nothing but talking and nothing interesting happening. Not to say that there aren't good movies that are that, but it's almost seen as like a crutch, like that people fall into. It's interesting. I think I've touched on this before in like other podcasts, but you have all these like auteur directors talking about how Marvel movies aren't cinema, and the big spectacle films, they take away all the attention from other projects. And I don't know how true that is. I think if you make a good movie, people will go and see it. If you make a movie that is less than stellar, then people won't. And I think what they found with the big spectacle movies is if you bet big and it's really popular, then you'll make a ton of money. And maybe you'll start a new franchise or whatever. But if you bet big and it doesn't work out well, then maybe at the very least you'll make back your money. So it wouldn't be a crazy loss. Honestly, like 2023 has been interesting because I feel like all the really good movies came out earlier in the year, and that almost never happens, or they came out late last year. And like I'm trying to think, like it really feels like the movies that I feel like sort of the big contenders have kind of missed the mark a bit. Like Marvel didn't really have a flop this year. And I don't think they've ever had what you would consider a flop. They had Guardians of the Galaxy 3. That came out, did great. I think it's done like $800 million, so it did what it was supposed to do. And of course, Spider-Verse, that movie came out, did great. I think they even said something like it was Sony's highest grossing movie. But it feels like the sort of June and July releases, it feels like they've stumbled. And a noticeable stumble has been Pixar. they released Elemental, which hasn't been doing great. And what's interesting is that it was kind of beaten by an Illumination movie of all studios. They did really well with the Mario Brothers movie, and DreamWorks, it's so funny how it's hit or miss with them, because they came out with Puss in Boots 2: The Last Wish, and that was great. And now they've got some sort of movie about mermaids and krakens. I never felt a strong compulsion to see it, so I can't really comment. But what's interesting to me is that the big movies that people are looking forward to in July, it's come down to Barbie and Oppenheimer. Barbie is a pretty safe, PG-13 kids film. And I have a feeling that it just barely earned the PG-13 rating. I feel it'll probably be about as bad as, say, School of Rock. Like, it was one of those things where it's like a coin toss. A coin toss. Did I just say coin toss? But anyway, as I've said before, I'm tired. And it wound up with a PG-13 rating. Oppenheimer is going to be Christopher Nolan's first R-rated flick in a while. So that's interesting. What's funny is he did the movie Dunkirk and somehow kept it PG-13, even though it's based on a colossal military loss. And it's been 3 years and I still have yet to see Tenet. That was his last movie he did for Warner Brothers. Last so far. I wouldn't be surprised if he wound up working for Warner Brothers again. He was just irritated that they released Tenet on HBO Max, now just known as Max, and in theaters the same day. And the people who were running Warner Brothers at the time, they kind of threw Chris under the bus and saying like, oh man, Tenet flopped. And it's like, well, the pandemic happened and we didn't know how long all that craziness was going to last. I remember people saying like, oh yeah, things will stop in around June, and we all know that's not true. Really, things didn't begin to change until, well, it really depends on where you live. It's a little, I say that and I cough. Texas, yeah, I feel like they reopened restaurants in like the summer of 2020. So that was a surreal experience. I remember going to a dine-in restaurant and I was like, oh man. And then I remember I think it was early February of 2021 where February or April, I don't know. Anyway, where I think if Texas did have any mask mandates, they were rescinded. And what's so funny is, during the pandemic, we didn't use cones at Chick-fil-A. We'd use ice cream cups. And what felt like an even bigger sign of a return to normalcy wasn't so much Greg Abbott's rescinding of a mask mandate. It was the fact that Chick-fil-A started to use cones again, where we would be permitted to. And then I remember as like 2022 just rolled out, I remember I visited a church that my sister would go to, and I was so shocked when I saw a lot of people not wearing masks, because my church had masks mandated, I think, all the way towards maybe mid 2022. I remember we were thinking about making them voluntary at some point in 2021, but then the Delta variant happened, and we're like, okay, let's hold off on rescinding that. And then the Omicron variant happened, but it wasn't as threatening a thing as some thought it was. And midway through the year, they're like, okay, masks are optional now. And I remember like every Sunday hearing a thing about we're still practicing social distancing. And now it's just not. And it was such a crazy thing when long after people had gotten back to normal, I hear the White House say, we've allowed the COVID emergency measures to expire. And then I was really surprised a couple months ago when the World Health Organization said, okay, we no longer think that it's, I am paraphrasing, but as best as I recollect it, they said that we didn't have to go about taking such strong precautions, that it had become a manageable thing. Yeah. I'm not trying to like take a stand. I'm just saying what my experience was with it. And, yeah. But anyway, I remember I made a movie, like sort of right before the craziness of 2020 and a little bit during 2020. And I think maybe towards right at the start of 2021. But anyway, it was like an improv movie where we came up with stuff and we'd sort of piecemeal figure out the story and add on to it as we went along. I wonder how long this podcast has gone. Oh wow, it's almost 30 minutes. But anyway, yeah. So it's not like I did something and I kept doing church videos, but yeah, I need to figure out something else. And I do want to try to do video games. I don't think I'd ever make something like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. Like, probably at most, I think I've said it before, but sort of a Mario/Mega Man-esque platformer, and then some sort of Pokemon knockoff. And I kind of feel once I do that, I'll have it out of my system. But who knows if I'll be like, well, what if I do this? I've got another idea. But I do think that I need to make some kind of other movie. And yeah, my kind of goals and aspirations have sort of changed. Now I kind of just want to make enough money so, like, I kind of want to make money so that my parents could not have to work. And I don't know. Because I know they're getting up there, and I've seen how difficult it was, like when my grandparents passed, and it's one of those things looming on the horizon. Probably it's off for several years, but who knows? Also, I want to be able to, like, get married, but I don't want to struggle. It's like, I kind of want my parents to like be able to see like grandkids and stuff. So I don't know if that's like the best reason, but I know like they probably would like to have grandkids, and don't know who else is gonna do that. But I just got a change in my life. I need to make change. Yeah. So anyway, man, I've got about half power on my little Tascam DR10L audio recorder, but I could probably go on forever. But I won't put y'all through that. Who knows? Maybe I'll record another podcast this evening. But until then, this is the David Wells Experiment. I am your host, David Wells, and as I always say, have an absolutely super day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.